Did Darwin change Islam more than Islam changed Darwin? Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I'm reacting to Ramazan episode 8 by Mufti Tariq Masood, where he hosted several Muslim speakers to discuss atheism, Darwinism, liberalism, and modern challenges to Islam. Before I begin, I want to say something positive about the discussion. One thing I genuinely appreciated was the repeated advice that Muslims should seriously study Darwinism, philosophy, and atheism before trying to refute them. I completely agree. Too many people criticize ideas they have never actually investigated. If you're going to reject evolution, you should understand what Charles Darwin actually argued. If you're going to reject Islam, you should understand what Islam actually teaches. Intellectual honesty requires that we understand our opponents before criticizing them. Ironically, that's exactly what eventually led me away from Islam. One theme kept appearing throughout the panel. The speakers emphasized studying Darwin because evolution is one of the biggest reasons people leave religion today. I think they're right about that, but I also think the reason is deeper than they suggested. Most people think evolution is simply about whether Adam existed. I don't think that's the biggest issue. The bigger issue is what evolution tells us about how religions change. Let's briefly go back in history. Before Charles Darwin published On the Origin of Species in 1859, the appearance of design in nature was incredibly persuasive evidence for God. Look at the human eye. Look at birds. Look at flowers. Look at the incredible complexity of life. Without a natural explanation, it seemed obvious that an intelligent designer must exist. Even many people who rejected Christianity still believed in a creator because life looked designed. Darwin didn't invent the idea that species change over time. Others had suggested that before him. His revolutionary contribution was explaining how complexity could arise naturally. Natural selection acting on inherited variation over immense periods of time. That single idea fundamentally changed the intellectual landscape. For the first time, there was a powerful natural explanation for something that previously seemed to require supernatural design. Now notice what I'm not saying. Evolution does not answer every philosophical question. It doesn't explain why the universe exists. It doesn't explain why the laws of physics exist. It doesn't solve consciousness. It doesn't tell us whether some kind of God exists. But it did dramatically weaken one of the strongest historical arguments for God, the argument from biological design. That is why Darwin matters. Now let's connect this back to Islam. For me, evolution isn't just another scientific theory. It changes the entire framework through which I read the Quran. If humans evolved gradually from earlier animals, then Adam becomes difficult to understand literally. If death existed for hundreds of millions of years before humans appeared, then death was not simply introduced into the human story after Adam. If humanity arose gradually, then the distinction between humans and other animals becomes one of degree rather than a sudden miraculous beginning. These aren't isolated issues. They reshape the entire narrative. Now, I know many Muslims respond by saying that Adam can be interpreted differently. Maybe Adam wasn't the first biological human. Maybe evolution occurred but Allah intervened at some point. Maybe the relevant verses are metaphorical. Those are legitimate theological attempts to reconcile Islam with modern science. But here's a question that I find far more interesting. Why do these reinterpretations appear after scientific discoveries rather than before them? That's the pattern that stands out to me. Imagine two possibilities. In the first, Islam is genuinely divine. As science advances, we gradually discover that the Quran was already describing reality correctly all along. The more we learn about nature, the more impressed we become with the text. In the second possibility, Islam is a human tradition. As science advances, religious interpretations gradually adapt, so that scripture remains compatible with the latest discoveries. Which pattern do we actually observe? For me, it's the second one. Scientific discoveries come first, the reinterpretations come later. And that isn't unique to evolution. Throughout history, we've seen religious understandings change in response to astronomy, geology, biology, and cosmology. As humanity's understanding of reality expands, theology often adjusts with it. That doesn't automatically prove Islam is false, but it is exactly the pattern I would expect if scripture originated in a particular historical context rather than from the creator of the universe. Sometimes Muslims respond by saying the Quran was never intended to teach science. I actually agree with that part. The Quran isn't a biology textbook. It isn't an astronomy textbook, but that doesn't solve the problem, because the Quran still makes claims about reality. Adam existed, Noah existed, Moses existed, Jesus was raised to heaven, angels exist, jinn exist, Gog and Magog exist. These are not merely moral teachings, they are claims about how reality is structured. And whenever a religion makes factual claims about reality, those claims become open to investigation using history, archaeology, biology, cosmology, and every other tool we have for understanding the world. That's not unfair criticism. That's simply how knowledge works. One thing I appreciated from the panel was their encouragement to actually study Darwin. I would encourage exactly the same thing. Don't accept atheist summaries. Don't accept Muslim summaries. Read Darwin. Read modern evolutionary biology. Read the strongest Muslim responses. Read the strongest secular responses. Then ask yourself an honest question. As humanity has learned more about the natural world over the past 150 years, has our understanding of reality gradually moved closer to the most straightforward reading of the Quran? Or has the most straightforward reading of the Quran gradually been reinterpreted to fit our expanding understanding of reality? For me, that's the more important question. My journey away from Islam wasn't because of one fossil. It wasn't because of one verse. It wasn't because of one scientific paper. It was because I kept seeing the same pattern, again and again and again. Whenever strong external evidence emerged, theology adapted. The evidence rarely changed to fit the theology. The theology changed to fit the evidence, and once I noticed that pattern, I couldn't stop seeing it. I want to end by thanking Mufti Tariq Masood and his guests for encouraging Muslims to study opposing viewpoints seriously. I genuinely respect that advice. In my own case, studying evolution didn't strengthen my confidence that Islam was divinely revealed. It had the opposite effect, not because evolution answered every question, but because it fundamentally changed how I interpreted the relationship between scientific discovery and religious belief. For me, evolution didn't simply change one doctrine, it revealed a broader pattern. A pattern in which our understanding of reality seems to change only after our understanding of reality changes. A pattern in which our understanding of revelation seems to change only after our understanding of reality changes. And that is one of the main reasons I no longer believe Islam comes from the creator of the universe. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this reaction, please like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below.